The girl had just emerged from the lake when she discovered in horror that her legs were covered in blood. Before she could react, she suddenly noticed everyone screaming and running toward the shore. Their legs had also turned red, and even the lake water had been stained red. There seemed to be some terrifying creature in the water. One boy was just a second too slow and was dragged underwater by a terrible force. The police soon received an emergency call and immediately dispatched an officer to the scene. However, this officer didn't take the matter seriously. He sat leisurely in his boat and even pulled out a cold beer to enjoy. At that moment, an eel suddenly leapt up and bit his arm. Just a few minutes later, the officer was dead. When Jack and his companion arrived, they only saw the capsized boat and blood all around. Just as they were about to flip the boat over, an eel suddenly attacked Mark. Jack immediately rushed to help, but the terrifying eel had clamped down firmly on Mark's hand. Jack quickly pulled out a knife and managed to pry the eel off Mark, then received a call from his colleague. Someone had found the officer's body downstream, and it had already been brought back to the police station. The two rushed to the station, with Jack warning the medical examiner to stay away from the body. However, his warning came too late. The medical examiner, who was on the phone, noticed the body was still moving. An eel suddenly lunged at him. The examiner struggled desperately to escape, but there wasn't just one eel in the body. Countless eels poured out, and the examiner couldn't escape his fate. When the two returned to the police station, the medical examiner had already stopped breathing. The eels had burrowed into the sewers. If they made their way through the pipes into residents' homes, the consequences would be unthinkable. The two immediately informed the mayor. The mayor was startled by what he saw, but when they proposed shutting down all the water pipes, he refused without hesitation. He didn't think the eels were that dangerous and was more worried about the economic losses from cutting off the water supply. Little did he know this decision would haunt him for the rest of his life. After returning home, the mayor went to use the toilet, unaware that an eel had already made its way through the pipes into the toilet bowl. By the time he tried to flee, it was too late. Ultimately, he died in the bathroom in the most humiliating way.